Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Recently I done a video on the Gransfors Burks wildlife hatchet, and I hadn't been using my axes for a good considerable period of time, so I thought it's maybe about time now to get out and do a bit of training. So I've got another 3 axes here. They're all Gransfors Burks Axes from Sweden. The first one we've got here is the small forest axe, and this is a really popular axe with the bushcrafters. This axe then is the Scandinavian axe, and I like this axe for my survival course training. It gives me the capability to be able to cut down logs, large limbs. It is a bit cumbersome, but I fit it to the outside of my bergen, and this axe can really go to town. It's light enough that you can use it for considerable periods of time and not too heavy. And all these Gransfors Burks axes come razor sharp, and mine's are razor sharp. So that's the Scandinavian axe. The largest one of them all is the American felon axe. This is really quite heavy, this axe. Got quite a lot of deadfall here. It's come down at the start of the winter in the storms, so it's to give me a chance to cut through these, and that's what I would use the American felon axe for. This axe came in about £170 at Nordic Outdoors in Edinburgh. That was a good few years ago, so I don't really know how much they cost now. It's one of the more expensive axes. It weighs 2.2 kilos. I think that's about 4.8 pounds, and it has a 90 centimetre shaft which is made of hickory. Lovely grain in it. I've had this axe for a good couple of years now. Doesn't get out that much, and it comes with a tan hide sheath or mask. This axe is really for your very large trees, like this one here that's actually sitting on at the moment, taking down stuff like that. That's what I use it for, or ones like this over here. A brilliant axe. It's an absolute chopping machine. Takes very large chunks out the wood. Does take a bit of conditioning to get used to it, and that's why I'm out today to do a bit of training. I don't really like using my axes when I'm out myself, just purely down to safety. So we'll need to train, we'll need to get in condition. So I've been sitting about like everybody during this COVID period, doing nothing. So I said, right, get out here, get a bit of work done, get a bit of training done, some real training. And that's one thing the axe gives you. So this axe here is the Scandinavian axe. It has the same hickory handles, and the name's actually been covered up with my paracord wrap that I like to put on them. This is an axe I use on my survival courses. It can fell large trees, it's no over cumbersome, you can carry it on the outside of your bergen, and it's good for your more resinous type trees, your pine, your spruce, your sitka. I like it for that. It weighs 1.2 kilos. It comes with a tan hide mask, and the shaft length is 64 centimetres if I recall right. And if I could only take one axe, I think it would be this one for me. This is a bit of an all-rounder for me, so it can do a bit of everything, and just choke up on it and you can do your kindling and your fire prep with it. Razor sharp edges, a nice curved bit there. The cheeks are pretty thin as well. Let me make that out. From side to side, so it really can slice through the resinous branches. I'll say this is my favourite Gransfors Burks axe. Right, on to the smaller one then. So this is the small forest axe, probably the most popular with the bushcrafters. There's the tanned mask. I just treat all my masks with Vaseline. Just cake it in it and just leave it. And I also do the hickory shaft in Vaseline as well. And it stops it from drying out, especially when you're leaving it for long periods of time, like I do in the shed. All you have to do is clean off the shaft with a cloth. I find it works fantastic for me, and I've been doing it for what, 30 years. Obviously you don't cake the shaft in Vaseline, rub it in, clean it off with a cloth before you store it away, leave plenty on the leather sheath and you won't go far wrong. This is only 900 grams in weight. The hickory shaft, it's 49 centimetres in length, so it's a nice convenient size for carrying about in the woods, in your hand, on your belt order, or on the side of your rucksack stroke bergen. That's probably why this one is the most popular. Fantastic for fire prep, getting your kindling done for the fire. Right, so that's the small forest axe. Right, I'm out here at this down pine tree here, and I want to sned it out. And you can see some of the limbs are quite large and they're above my head, so selecting the proper tool to do the job is imperative. So I need something that's light enough that I can take above my head, obviously with safety in mind, and can cope with these thicker branches. This is why I like the Scandinavian axe. The American felling axe is just too heavy. It's okay if you're built like the Incredible Hulk, you can do that. If you're maybe as strong as Ryan that you've seen in the last video, he's like a Sasquatch in the woods.
Two trees for the price of one.
So for this, I select Scandinavian axe to do the job. You can see some of these branches are quite thick. Right, so choosing the right tool for the job is a must. Small snedding tasks like this, I would recommend the small forest axe. The 3 axes I've just shown you. For safety, try and clear the ground in front of you. Any small sticks or branches, get them out of the road. Solid wide stance when you're doing your chopping. Cut from the underside of the branch, cut on the opposite side of the trunk for safety, so you've got a barrier between you and the edge of the axe whenever possible. But there will be times when we have branches like this in the centre and it's not feasible to be able to climb over some branches, so sometimes you will need to cut on this side. Start with cut to the underside, off we go. Right, so we're going to go at this one at the top. All we have to do then is shorten our grip where it feels comfortable for you. Side, control your swing, branch on top, shorten the swing. And that's all there is to it. If you need to cut on the same side as you, go to a two-handed grip, control the speed, increase your accuracy, go for accuracy, cut down the power, and you should be safe enough. For your stance when you're cutting, my right leg against the trunk, my left leg standing out. Change the angle of the shaft from a 45 degree to a horizontal. If I'm cutting on the same side, you cut straight down, and that should increase your safety and cut out the likelihood that you're going to do any damage to yourself if you need to cut on the same side. There's a wee tip for beginners who are just starting out with axes. Let's see how the Scandinavian axe does. right there. Well, that's the Scandinavian forest axe. There's quite a thick trunk there. There's the kind of chunks it's taken out. And it's nice clean cuts. Right, I'll show you the American felling axe, chopping through this down piece of pine here. So the American felling axe made that job a lot easier than the Scandinavian, just down to physics, the weight, the length of the shafts. So there's some of the chunks that it can take out of the wood. Look how clean a cut it gives. I wasn't even doing it correct there, but just a bit of training for me to get me back into the swing of things again. And it really takes a fair bit out of you, and it's when you get tired, this is where the mistakes come in. So be wise, take time out, get your breath back, get your arms swinging about, get the blood back into the hands and arms, get totally back to rested state before you start at it again. But there you go, some cracking chunks here for kindling to start a fire, and that's this here American felling axe. Just thought I'd do that for you to give you a quick comparison between the two, and maybe later on down the line I'll do a more in-depth video for you on the axes on their own merits. Right, catch you all soon. Cheers.